We're still close to a month away from free agency, but the fate of Alshon Jeffery already seems to be sealed. Numerous reports citing the Eagles' intent to move on from the wide receiver have surfaced since the beginning of the offseason, and they're only multiplying as the weeks go by. Alshon Jeffery has paved his own way out of the Novacare complex through actions of his own both on and off the field. But why and where did this all go wrong? My name is Liam Jenkins and that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. But before we get into this video, congratulations on being drafted with the 21st overall pick in the NFL draft. You are our shiny new wide receiver and all we need you to do is catch that long subscribe touchdown bomb that we're throwing your way. So open up your hands, don't do a Nelson Aguilar and drop it, just catch it, subscribe to the channel, join the fun, and don't forget you can get your daily dose of Philadelphia sports coverage from myself and all of our writers over at phillysportsnetwork.com. For this video, it's only fair that we go back to the very beginning of Alshon Jeffery's tenure with the Eagles, and when he first signed, it was in the hopes that it would bring a new chapter to his career. Sure, the 27-year-old had plenty of individual success since entering the NFL, amassing over 4,500 yards and 26 touchdowns, but there was significant dysfunction around that Chicago Bears team. Jeffery had played under 3 head coaches and what felt like a constant question mark at quarterback, playing with Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz and being the devout #1 guy for the foreseeable future. That was a very appealing target to work towards. Things started off perfectly for Jeffery. 789 yards, 9 touchdowns, a Super Bowl ring, and a shiny new contract extension. His presence opened up the offense for everyone else as well. Nelson Aguilar and Zach Ertz amassed a total of 16 touchdowns that year, as well as 1,592 yards of their own. Everything was sunny in Philadelphia, or so it seemed. It turned out that Jeffery had actually played through the entire season with a torn rotator cuff. Ouch. He underwent off-season surgery and would miss the start of 2018 as a result, but this may be where things started to decline. It's a bit strange looking back that nobody questioned how a #1 receiver was able to hide a torn rotator cuff for a full 16-game season and a postseason campaign. Knowing what we do about the medical staff struggles, lest we forget Jordan Matthews being misdiagnosed before the Buffalo trade, it's at least plausible that there's more to this than meets the eye. It's not definite, and I would hate to assume and put anything more on the medical staff than they've already got to deal with, but we can at least speculate that playing through an injury of that magnitude cannot exactly be pain-free and is bound to draw at least a question or a conversation at some point. Right? After a slightly prolonged absence due to rehabbing the injury, Jeffery returned to the offense in week 3 along with Carson Wentz. He went on to amass 843 yards and catch another 6 touchdown passes despite playing in 3 less games. And on the surface, it was a strong year, but beneath it, yeah, we'll get to that. It's safe to say that Carson Wentz found a new favourite target. Zach Ertz was targeted a whopping 157 times in 2018, while Alshon was targeted 92, which was 5 less than Nelson Aguilar. Not ideal for a #1 receiver, and even less ideal for someone who was targeted 10 more times than Zach Ertz just 1 year before, leading the team in that metric. What's really interesting though is that when we get to the postseason, Alshon was actually targeted twice more than Zach Ertz was. So why was there such a difference? It could be attributed to a simplified offense or a changing quarterback. Nick Foles took over from an injured Carson Wentz for the 2nd year in a row and showed no hesitation in slinging it in Alshon's direction. But just as things were looking up, his postseason ended in utter heartbreak. Jeffery let a pass slip directly through his hands and into the palms of Marshawn Lattimore, ending their dream for defending the Super Bowl crown, a mental error from a #1 receiver who very rarely commits one. It's surely no coincidence that a few months later someone anonymously comes out and absolutely trashes Carson Wentz, that article that we all remember, questioning his leadership and saying that he doesn't share the ball around the offense enough. Now, we have no way of knowing whether this was Alshon Jeffery or not, but you can understand why he'd be so annoyed and wanting to send a message to his quarterback. In his mind, the offense clearly works when he's thrown the ball, his individual numbers reflect that, and a playoff win indicated it too. To be signed as a WR1 and left in the cold thanks to the bond between Ertz and his quarterback, it has to sting. And Alshon, who has a career of drama following him everywhere he goes, may have felt like enough is enough and that it's time to take matters into his own hands. But with a new year comes new opportunity, unless your name is Alshon Jeffery. Things went from bad to worse in 2019. The Eagles brought back fan favourite Alshon Jeffery, and all we heard through the spring and the summer was just how close the two rapidly became. In week 1, that much was solidified when Jackson blew up against his former team, recording 156 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Jeffery, in the space of 2 years, had gone from being the guy to simply a guy. It was all about Wentz and Jackson now. No one was really bothered about Alshon anymore. A shiny new running back, a record-breaking tight end, and the return of a hero all left Alshon to play the role of a villain. Jackson's injury presented an opportunity for Jeffery to let that hunger consume him and translate into production, but he just seemed off. There was that weird situation where he fell out of bounds after a fairly routine catch, and a bizarre usage that saw him used on screens and shorter routes, which really aren't a strength of his. The Eagles began to fall apart for a variety of reasons, but it was clear they needed help at cornerback. After the Birds stood pat and let Jalen Ramsey walk his way into LA, Josina Anderson tweeted some discontent from an anonymous player within the locker room. Just moments later, Josina was back at it again, this time stating that another anonymous player had stated, "We need to make bleep simpler. Sometimes we need to just handle what's manageable. Even Peyton Manning knew when to check it down." Now, where have we heard that kind of comment before? Who would be frustrated enough to vent to a reporter about their quarterback? Who had a strong enough relationship with that particular reporter during his time with Chicago to be trusting? All signs point towards Alshon Jeffery, and this blew up. Players were furious and immediately came to the aid of their quarterback, who, by the way, has handled all of this like an absolute champion. There were reports of players-only meetings setting a very stern "you're either in or you're out" kind of tone, and after all the white noise the team had endured, Howard Eskin confronted Peterson at the podium, having confirmed Alshon as the anonymous source, a report which was then debunked by Peterson himself. On the field, things weren't exactly going much better. The target trend continued, production dipped, and Jeffrey's season ended in injury once again. He now sees himself in a weird situation where his contract has been guaranteed, but both parties clearly want a fresh start. This video wasn't intended to defend Alshon Jeffery's alleged actions. In fact, I find the snaky behaviour that has been linked with his name frankly appalling. But it's important that we and future NFL teams at least understand why all of this happened. Jeffery joined the Eagles in hope of rejuvenation, stability, and success. He got 2 of those 3, but as anyone will tell you, toxic relationships can end up causing problems in future ones, and I feel like that's what's happened here. More injuries, more chaos off the field, and Jeffery seemingly panicking that his production is going to drop as a result of his quarterback not throwing his way, led us down a path of misery and what may ultimately be the end of his tenure in Philadelphia. What do you think about this video, guys? Has it changed your opinion on Alshon Jeffery at all, and where do you stand on this entire situation? Let me know down in the comments. From myself, Liam Jenkins, as always, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy lives to watch this video. I'll see you soon.